to the cloud. There we go. Well, welcome to the Zcashd Arborist call, the 23rd of March, 2023, 23, or 3/23/23 if you're on the other side of the pond. Arborist calls are, the agenda for today, usual welcome and intro to the call, updates from the Zebra team, updates from ECC, any research and implementation status updates that we have, depending on who joins. And we've got some of the team behind the Zcash project here, so we can have a chat about network monitoring, which is something that recent events have caused us to think might be worth exploring a little bit more. And then at the end, if there are any questions from the audience, or if anybody wants to suggest another topic for discussion, we can delve on into that. But just a quick reminder of what Arborist calls. These happen every 2 weeks. We alternate between a late time slot, which is this time slot, and an earlier time slot, which is more suitable for those in Europe and east of the UK. It's for people who are involved in contributing to the Zcash protocol to discuss what they're doing and coordinate their work and make sure that we're not stepping on one another's toes, discuss R&D efforts, things like Frost and potentially other protocol changes, and to make sure that we can identify any issues that are going to prevent us from making progress. The idea is to make development of the Zcash protocol more accessible for a wider set of participants and to provide transparency for the community at large, and that's why we record these calls and then upload them to YouTube. Anybody can participate. These calls take place on Zoom, and if you want to register to attend, you can do so at electriccoin.co/events. If you want to suggest a topic for discussion, or if you want to present something, then just email arboristcall@cfnd.org and we can put you on the agenda. In general terms of how to get involved with Zcash, there is a community grants program where you can apply for funding for doing work that contributes to Zcash. There's also a separate grant program for projects that benefit the Filecoin and Zcash ecosystems, and there's a separate website for applying for that. If you want to chat with the sort of developers who attend these calls, then the Zcash R&D Discord is the place to go. And there's also the Zcash Community Forum. And obviously, I appreciate that these links are currently not clickable, but if you want to click on them, you can find them by going to zcasharborist.org. Let's start off with the Zebra updates. And I'm guessing, Tior, that you're in the hot seat for this.
Yes. So hi, I'm Tior. I'm the current Zebra team lead. So it's been a bit of a quiet few weeks for Zebra. We did some work on hardening Zebra's network protocol implementation in response to the Halborn disclosures. We weren't directly impacted, but we did choose to do some hardening of similar minor issues in our implementation. It's one of the advantages of having a completely different network stack is that we aren't always affected by the same bugs. We updated, sorry about that. We updated the version of Orchard to fix some minor Halo 2 proof issues on 32-bit platforms. We updated the version of incremental Merkle tree to fix a consensus bug on 32-bit platforms. The Orchard update is pending. Just so you know that Zebra at the moment doesn't work when it's compiled on beta or nightly Rust, but we're looking forward to upgrading to those fixed version of Orchard once it's available. We've mainly been working on our Zebra audit for the last few weeks. So we've been triaging the issues given to us by the auditors and starting work on some fixes. So far, things are going really well. And we've continued to do a little bit of work in the background on our mining feature where mining pools can use Zebra to mine blocks. And that's about it for the Zebra update. Any questions?
A semi-rhetorical question from me. Have there been any major issues discovered as part of the audit?
Right. So in Australia, I think we call this a Dorothy Dixer. No, currently we're looking at issues that are low or informational priorities. So these are things that take very unusual circumstances in order to be a problem, or things that were just noticed in the code that we might want to reconsider. So that's where we're at the moment. The auditors are moving on to more recent versions of the code, more recent features in the code soon. So we'll see how we go with those.
Cool. I see we have two Chris Nuttigums, and one of them looks strangely like there.
That's very strange.
So what happens there is if you share your link, if you share your Zoom link, then you end up joining with the other person ends up joining with your name. This happened.
Right. This will be because I clicked on Chris's calendar link. I just clicked on one at random. I will change my name.
Yeah, we once had, I think, 7 Deirdres on the call at one point when none of us happened to have the link handy. Okay, let's move on to ECC and the core Zbd updates. Who's in the hotspot for that today?
Derek, can you take this? I'm in a pretty noisy space, so I'm not sure how well people can hear me. Did anyone hear that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, I was just changing my name. Possibly. Is anyone else here? Yes, I've only just come from the Zcashd Study Club. Let's see. Yeah, so there was a security issue that is now fully disclosed. Basically, a denial of service via memory exhaustion, and we put out a blog post about that. The security company that found it, Halborn, also put out a post about it. So a lot of our work over the past few weeks has been to mitigate that, because the disclosure process ended up taking a lot more time than we originally thought it would. And since then, we've been working on getting the dependencies of Zcashd in shape. So we've made some changes to, I think the main one is in FF, the finite field crate, in order to fix some bugs on 32-bit platforms, and those all have to be, those dependencies all have to be rolled up into Zcashd. I've been working on the ZIP 317 block construction implementation for Zcashd. That's going well. Just logging through, making the tests pass after implementing that. Let's see, can anyone think of anything else?
Yeah, there's a bunch else. So,
yes.
So we've just merged a major refactoring to the internals of the Zcashd wallet for transaction construction. That's going to make it so that whereas we previously had 4 different implementations of transaction construction in Zcashd wallet, we will now have 1. And that's going to then make Orchard and unified addresses usable in Zmerge to address and Gsealed Coinbase, in addition to Zsend Many. We also have just merged the new implementation of our fragmented or sharded note commitment tree that we're going to be using for fast updates in the mobile wallets. So that's that's on top. And then yeah, there's been a significant cascade of updates through the Libra Zcash stack, including merging a significant type safety refactor for all of the sapling code in the Rust crates. So all of that has landed in the last 2 weeks since we stopped being quite so distracted by the mitigation of the Halborn disclosure.
Cool. Any questions for the ECC team? Let's move on. I'm not sure we have any research implementation status updates. We don't have anybody from Frost on today, so I think we'll move on. So this is a topic that we kind of discussed internally a little bit, partly I think sparked by the whole Halborn security issue, and I guess wondering how would we know if somebody was out there DOSing Zcash nodes. Tior, do you want to give a little bit of context to this?
Yeah. So this was a discussion we had that was also related to the transaction spam that we've been seeing and detecting similar attacks like that earlier on the network. So we're interested in, so inside the Zcash Foundation, we had a bit of a brainstorm and then prioritized the kinds of features and thought about how maybe we could work together with the rest of the community to do some better monitoring. I know that other cryptocurrency networks and other distributed systems have monitoring on things like the number of nodes, which we currently do, but also monitoring on things like the volume of network traffic, or whether there's a chain fork, or whether, and this is very vague, I understand, but whether bad things are happening. So censorship of the protocol, or big transactions or big blocks, packet storms, those kinds of things. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that we were talking about, and we were wondering what the next steps could be to make progress so that the next time there are network issues, we can pick up on them quickly and diagnose them effectively, and then work towards a solution faster.
And for this topic, we've invited the Equilibrium folks who are behind the Ziggurat project to join us. So Mark and or Peter, welcome. And I don't know if, would you guys like to give a little bit of a kind of a, I appreciate that Ziggurat is not necessarily directly about network monitoring, but it's kind of the closest thing we have at the moment that's active.
Yeah, it's adjacent to network monitoring, I would say. The best way to talk about our project, I think, is just to go over our recent deliverable that we just submitted to the Zcash forums. And that's also the closest thing to what we're talking about here. So that was a handful of network crawler updates that led to 2 main new features, which is a network visualizer. It's not a real-time thing. It's, a snapshot of the network at a certain time when we run the crawler, pass it through the data analysis tool, and then output something for the visualizer to consume and then display. that process takes hours. You know, you can let it run for kind of as long as you want, but it's snapshot based, but it looks cool. It's 3D. It's like WebGL, web GPU kind of thing. It's in the forums. I'll post a link when I'm done talking. I'll pass it over to Piotr in a minute. And the other is this idea of intelligent peer sharing. So the crawler, instead of being kind of passive, we theorized the thing and we tested it out on our data, kind of like a back test, but not quite so financial. And it sort of, the crawler carries with it a set of peers that we think are like good and reliable and can sort of churn through the existing peers and fix island formation, narrow your betweenness metrics, narrow your degrees of separation, and things like that, and make the network a little bit more resilient and a little less susceptible to, you know, targeting one central node and harming the whole thing. Our results were pretty promising. We've not unleashed anything on mainnet yet, don't worry, but we might soon. We'll see. And that's about it. So I think, you know, moving from, oh, thank you. Yep. Some nice screenshots for you. So moving from something like this that's sort of snapshot based to real time is something we haven't even thought about scoping yet at all. But, you know, something like that could be pretty cool. We are able to intercept kind of background radiation from the network as well. So that may be a distant early warning of malicious behavior, getting a lot of the same messages from the same node. On our early tests last year, we found that there was a command string that was unrecognized by the network protocol that was getting tossed around. Nothing alarming, but it was just kind of odd. Just this random like set of bytes that was just getting fluttered out there. Yeah, that's the background of what we do. I don't think there's a crawler running right now. I could be wrong, but I think it's dormant at the moment. And yeah, so
that random byte string, was that so that was after a peer had successfully negotiated, or was it during the handshake?
I believe it was after the handshake. I pasted the byte string in the chat if you're curious.
Okay.
I have to double check. Our notes don't indicate when it happened in the life cycle of a connection, but we saw that. We saw it a lot. So yeah, maybe somebody more familiar with it and more sleuthy can kind of investigate.
In terms of the network protocol, how are you dealing with the fact that the Firo network magics and essentially Firo seems to trespass on the Zcash network protocol? Have you addressed out how to separate out those nodes?
I mean, no. Short answer, no. I mean, we have the reported node version. We have the reported network protocol version that it's using. Those seem extremely easy to spoof. So we haven't done any. Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I don't think we've done any detection on kind of counterfeit or imposter nodes or anything like that.
No, we are now basically gathering the information from the network.
Yeah.
Just.
Tio, you have a raised hand.
Yeah, so I was interested, I think I was about to ask the same question as Chris. When you do your sort of reducing islands, I guess some of these islands are meant to be because they're actually different networks. So I'm wondering if you check the versions of the nodes before you try and merge them together into the same network.
Piotr, would you have
Well,
insight into that?
the crawler is going only through the good nodes from the one network. So we are checking if there are no reported nodes from this network that are disconnected in any disconnected state, or we have any nodes that when removed, so when it's possible to attack that node and remove it from the network, we check if that node wouldn't split the network into some islands and propose new connections for some, let's call them hot nodes, propose new connection that can omit this node and give network confidence that even if that node or any other with the high betweenness, so which are bridging some parts of the network are removed, we don't have any islands after that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So the question I'm asking is, there are actually different cryptocurrencies using this same protocol. For example, that version, I can't remember the name of the network, those are not Zcash. And then there are different splits where Zcash nodes have, say, remained on the Orchard, sorry, not the Orchard upgrade, the canopy upgrade or the sapling upgrade or something like that. So these are all meant to be separate networks because they're actually different cryptocurrencies. So does your, do you take that into account when you try and merge the networks together?
When we find a network that is big and that is somehow bigger and does not it's not connected anyhow to the existing network, we are stopping merging, and we thought that it would be it should be done manually by the user. So we are notifying the user that we found something strange, some disconnected nodes, and not doing it automatically.
Darren, do you remember the name of the cryptocurrency that uses the same network magic?
Not offhand. I can look it up for you now.
The one that has about 6,000 nodes there, the magic bean 610, that's Firo. They were previously, I don't remember what they were called, but it's Firo now.
Okay. Right.
Zcoin.
Those guys. Right. Yeah, so for the benefit of the Equilibrium guys, these guys, Firo, forked, or however they did it, they used the same network magic as Zcash. So, you know, this blockchain node explorer looks at looks at what it perceives to be the Zcash network and says that there's nearly 7,000 nodes, but in fact, those are all a separate cryptocurrency. And I'm pretty sure that they started at Magic Bean 6. So there's 610, 610 bit core, and then 6 down here. And I think that that's the way. Well, that's the easy way to differentiate between Zcash and Firo.
Yeah, they do in practice have larger numbers, but and always have done. Yeah, they're obviously deliberately copying our strings because it's not a direct fork, but it was deliberately launched at the same time, and the marketing exploited confusion between the two networks. So yeah, it's annoying.
Nate, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, so this is slightly a tangent from monitoring, but would it be feasible to introduce a network protocol change that would be backwards incompatible. I mean, we would need to do it safely to migrate legitimate Zcash nodes, but the goal would be to prevent this issue, like knock off nodes that happen to be similar. And I guess there's the easy version, which is just knocking off nodes that aren't trying hard to accidentally connect to the same protocol. And maybe the harder version, which might be impossible, maybe not, using consensus, is knock off nodes that are maliciously trying to, I can't think of why. Yeah, so there's the easy version, which might just be change the peer protocol around the handshake in some manner that will knock off nodes that aren't intentionally trying to join the Zcash network.
So if the question is the easy version possible to do compatibly without too much disruption, the answer is yes. It's I kind of think it's a bit of a distraction from other things that we need to do, but if that was prioritized, if UCC management decided it was important, then we could do it.
Mark, you seem to be hardware muted. Nate or Dara, or indeed Chris, has ECC done any kind of brainstorming and thinking about what sort of things we would want to monitor?
So as we were, working through this latest incident response, we have our own internal network monitoring, and so of course we were, observing that. But I don't know if our teams had any brainstorming on this front, but it does feel really important for me to have better public and shared monitoring. So one thing we might do, I haven't shared this at all with our team, so I'm not sure if there's blockers or anything, but maybe we can just get our infrastructure team to start open sourcing more of the tooling that we're using, so at the very least others can set up their own with that open source. So that feels like it would be the lowest hanging fruit of a way we could contribute. But I'm not aware of active discussions about that right now. How about you, Dara or Chris? Did I miss those discussions, or have we not had them yet?
I mean, apart from the discussion in the retro for the Halbon bug, we have talked about it in the past, and we have some scattered notes about it, but those need bringing together and sort of comparing with what Ziggurat is implementing. We don't do redundant work.
Yeah, I kind of think of Ziggurat as almost like network analysis. So obviously, start off with the sort of testing, then kind of network analysis. Whereas this is actually, I feel like a slightly different thing, where, like for example, if we want to know when a whole bunch of nodes drop off, we need to be monitoring, we need to be snapshotting it, on an ongoing basis, and then graphing it. And then if there's a significant delta, we then go, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, well, we do have that monitoring.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the nodes that we run.
Yeah, and that includes alerting. So when various conditions occur, people get notified. So that piece also would be good to get more open source, more alerting. There might be some balance. Sometimes it's good to have some of the monitoring or alerting be proprietary, so that malicious folks don't know how to game that. But in my opinion, the best situation would be a lot of open source monitoring, and then multiple teams running monitoring. A fair amount of it can be open source. Maybe some teams have some of their own like proprietary alerting on top of that. That feels like it would be the most resilient.
I mean, can we show a screen share of Grafana to show people what we're currently monitoring, or would we need to decide whether that should be public?
I don't know, because I mean I would feel more comfortable looping in people on the infrastructure team, because I don't know if any of them are here, so I don't want to like surprise them. So yeah, but so maybe one good next step would be getting our infrastructure team in a room, maybe at a future Arborist call, or maybe just on a call with Ziggurat and anyone else interested in this topic, to just share where we're at, what we have, and what good next steps would be for collaboration. How does that sound to folks?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll look into that. Yeah.
I want to give Peter an opportunity to talk, because he's had his hand up.
Yeah. When we were doing the IPS of the intelligent peer sharing, we have noticed that some of the information would be useful to be maybe anonymously even, but get from the node with using the protocol, not the RPC, but the protocol. Because if we would like to propose, for example, new peers using IPS, we could take into account, for example, the network usage, the packets that are going through the network interfaces of such node. But we have no information right now, so the performance is not taken into account of each node. So there is possibility that we propose a new peer, which is on the high load right now, but we have no other possibility than connect to this node and measure the time of the response.
What you're talking about there, actually, this is a little bit of a tangent, but what you're talking about in terms of being able to suggest new peers in order to improve the connectivity or shape of the network, is that something some capability that could potentially be plugged into a DNS seeder, so that when a new node fires up and connects to the network, connects to the DNS seeder, the peers that it is given or suggested by the DNS seeder are better ones than whatever the selection process is today.
I think that'd be really helpful from a security perspective, because if, for example, your goal was, we know there are these reasonably isolated sets of nodes, and then what you do is you send at least one node from each of those sets to as your DNS seed. What happens is the new node, if any of those isolated sets have fallen behind, the new node has the best chance to find the best chain, but also the new node will help gossip peers between those isolated sets as well. So I think it could work well on two different levels. And I think that's a good kind of logic to have in your DNS seeder anyway.
Try again there, Mark.
Testing 1 2.
Yes, excellent. We can hear you.
Yay. I was software muted. Now I'm not anymore. I think that's the DNS seeder is a cool idea. I think that's possible as well. I don't know about the time to live records and things like that. Might complicate things to make it like bespoke for each node that connects, but something like that could be possible, I think.
Yeah, because the DNS seeds are global to the network. So if you're trying to actively shape the network, That would be tricky. I mean, arguably, you shouldn't have full control over shaping a node's view of the network, because that's also an attack.
Yeah, I was just thinking it is.
Well, that's the whole, everything that the Zcash team builds is kind of like one step away from being a weapon. It's really nerve-wracking.
Dual use technology.
Yeah, exactly. Like in, like many things, I'll say, not everything, like
Yeah.
many things.
Mark, you said you wanted a briefing on that piggybacking thing.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be right now. Maybe on the Discord or something, I can hop on and just have somebody like. I'm baffled as how do the nodes, and I guess maybe it's just one question I have is just how do the nodes themselves differentiate between the network, because you're sending like block sharing messages, you're sending block height messages. Like if there's different cryptocurrencies, how are the nodes themselves telling themselves apart?
So I think when you look at network maps in, for example, the Blockchain Explorer, it's not fully participating in the peer-to-peer protocol. It's doing a handshake, and if it gets past the handshake, then it counts that as a node. But in practice, Sphero nodes will very quickly get banned by Zcash nodes, because
Right.
they'll be sending messages that don't make sense for the Zcash chain.
So the stats that we're seeing are just the RPC reporting back what connection it is, or what.
Yeah, so I don't know what software Blockchain, for example, is using to get those stats at all.
Right. Okay.
I don't think they're running a fully synced node, because if they were, then they wouldn't be seeing that count.
The good thing about our crawler and our essentially most of our work is that we're traversing the network via the network protocol itself. So we are doing handshakes to nodes before we move on to other nodes and getting their peer lists and things like that. So I think a lot of the data that you're seeing from us is not Firo data. I think. Again, it's really, like we already covered, it's hard to tell them apart just based on the preliminary contact with the nodes. But I think we're looking at the Zcash network here when you look at those screenshots and stuff.
How many nodes do you guys see on the Zcash network?
Piotr?
Well, it's about 6,000 nodes.
Okay, so in that case, you are seeing
6,000 nodes.
Yeah, in that case you are seeing. So in this list of node versions, Magic Bean is the name of Zcashd, but Zcashd's latest version is 5.4.2. So anything that has a version number starting with 6 is this other cryptocurrency Firo.
Oh,
I'm wondering because if the, let's say, the correct Zcash nodes ban those nodes that are connecting with from different cryptocurrencies, so they also shouldn't advertise their addresses as appears to our crawler. Because we start our crawler with some seed and get from using the get age message text peers just to connect. So I believe that if we are receiving from the Zcash nodes some peers, they are advertised the correct peers, not the other ones.
We'd have to have a look at the address manager code to see whether we should actually be excluding those nodes from the address manager more quickly and not advertising them. That's a good point.
Yeah, but because I analyzed the crawler results from the last week, and we had all the nodes have connections to some other nodes reported. So we haven't any islands detected. So each node reported connection to some other nodes, and we haven't any node that was without any connection. So
Yeah,
that's something we should investigate.
Yeah, it could be that we're underestimating the size of the actual Zcash network. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Nate in the chat that perhaps 6,000 is too high and includes Fira nodes, but 100 seems exceedingly low.
Well, I think we've.
Well, remember, we've just released 2 hotfix releases, so that's the version distribution is not as concentrated as it would normally be.
Yeah, but our traditionally we've during discussions on previous Arborist calls, the number that everybody seems to kind of agree on is 200, 210, 220 nodes on the Zcash network, which does sound perhaps low, but bear in mind that we have a lot of light wallet users, so.
And we also have the end of service halt policy. On other networks, they have lots and lots of nodes that are very out of date. And we just don't have those nodes.
Yeah. So when you look at a list like this, anything Magic Bean 6 you can ignore. Magic Bean 5 should be, actually 5.4 I think should be the by far the most common, and I think 5.3 is still a current. Sorry, Dara. 5.3 is still a currently supported version, isn't it?
533, yeah. 531 and 532 are about to end of service halt, but also everything below 5 is pre-NU5 and therefore is also not following consensus.
Tior.
Yeah, so Zebra has a different network stack, so our band logic is different to Zcashd. So one of the things that could be happening is that Zebra could be connecting between these networks and gossiping their addresses back and forth. It's also possible that both Zebra and Zcashd are gossiping addresses before they have time to reject them. Or a third possibility is that one of the seed peers in Ziggurat is actually from Firo. And so therefore you'd be looking up those networks as well. So yeah, I guess the question I was really interested in asking is, how do you know when 2 nodes are connected to each other? How do you work that out in Ziggurat?
We are sending the get address message, and the node answer us with the address with up to 1,000 nodes, 1,000 peers. Yeah, I've looked into Zcash code, and I know that there are some other things that the node should be connected within the 3 hours, that it behaved all right. So we are assuming that if we are receiving the peer address in the other ADDR message, that's all right, and this is a peer which is connected to that node, and we are adding it to the list and try to connect it and check if it's good. If it's good, so we are connecting it, making handshake, we are adding it to the list and sending get address message, take address response, and the nodes that we cannot connect, we are not adding it to the network because we thought they are down, so we are moving on only with the, let's say, good nodes.
So a Zcashd node by default has a peer connection limit of 125 peers. So if it's sending you more than that in the address message, it's sending you basically IP addresses that it knows about that have ever connected to it, but there's not necessarily still connected to.
All right.
And in Zebra will send, sorry.
Yeah, go on. I was just thinking loudly.
In Zebra, we'll send through addresses that we've got from other nodes that haven't expired yet. So another node has told us, yes, we know about this address. We'll send that through before we've connected to it ourselves. And the reason we implemented it that way is, say, for example, a Zebra node that only has an IPv4 connection, we wanted it to be able to gossip IPv6 addresses, even if it couldn't connect to it. So it'll gossip those IPv6 addresses for a few hours after it gets them, or until it's managed to check them to see if if it can connect to them, and then it'll stop sending them. So I'm not sure that I think your connectivity is a could possibly be connected metric, not an is connected or has been connected metric.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking maybe we should make that more strict, but we'd have to think about what the possible side effects of that are, because I don't think we only want to gossip IP addresses that we've been connected to for a minimum length of time, because that potentially it's potentially more likely to create islands, or to avoid new nodes being gossiped.
Could we do something perhaps with inventory messages? So getting inventory from the nodes that the network observatory is connecting to, so that we could get some sense of what chain they're following.
I mean, I think Sasha's CEDA code uses some heuristics to tell whether it thinks a node is good. So we should look at what that's doing and maybe include some of that in Zcashd. I don't know how much more it does than just doing a protocol negotiation.
Does is it possible that the current DNS seeders will pass on inappropriate node addresses?
So I think we try relatively hard to not do that. We certainly look at uptime. Not sure how much more we look at than that. Strad would know better, but he's not on this call.
One quick way of getting an idea what chain nodes are following is to look at their block heights. So Dodger, if you could scroll up slightly to that part of the page, yeah, you can see that there's obviously one set of chains that is Firo that's at 1.3 million, and then there's another set that's at 2 million that's obviously Zcash. So that might be one way of segregating the networks, but it only works for nodes that are synced, because Zcash nodes also go through a temporary stage where they're at about 1.3 million while they're syncing.
Yeah, I mean, only the ones that are at 2026 something are fully synced Zcash nodes. And I think if you add up all of those, you probably get a similar number to looking at the number of nodes that have magic being 5.x. Those look roughly the same order of magnitude.
Yeah, roughly, yeah. It's like 177 nodes at 2 million plus. I think it's 180 or 90.
Yeah, I mean, a trivial filter would be just to start by filtering out any nodes that we know are just only report Zcashd and Zebra nodes that we know should be currently active, given our EOS halt rules.
Well, we allow nodes to not follow EOS halt, but we also know that anything before 5.0 is not compatible with NU5. So that's definitely not.
Not to evangelize too much, but it seems like this is something our crawler could also, if we had like a Firo detection algorithm or just a non-Zcash detection algorithm, is just to deliver a set of IP addresses periodically to somebody that are sort of known Firo or known non-Zcash nodes. I don't know if that's going to trickle up to block chair or not. Probably not. But
we have had some difficulty, including things like supply metrics, in getting these third parties to pay attention to accurate statistics.
When
I can give you a. Oh, sorry. Go, Jack.
You go ahead. I was going to talk to something slightly different.
So I can give you a very quick way to tell the difference most of the time, and that's that the default port for Firo is 8168, which is not the same as Zcashd, or as the Zcash network. So there's a quick way to tell.
You got your looks, smells, and quacks like a duck kind of things. You got that. You got the port. You got the network protocol version and the node version, and you got the weird block height. And sort of, if those aren't accurate, then you can some degree of confidence say it's not a proper Zcash node.
Yeah, I mean, so bear in mind that you can tell whether something is Zcashd from the user agent, and you can tell whether it's Zebra. But there's nothing to stop there being other consensus compatible Zcash nodes with different user agents.
But there
I would imagine we would do more thorough, with the actual network protocol messaging. At post handshake, a lot of stuff needs to happen to be Zcash.
Doja, I'm thinking mainly of forks of Zcashd or Zebra rather than other node implementations, which there aren't any as far as we know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if some of these like what looked like very old versions of Zcashd are actually potentially pieces of software that are maintained by miners or exchanges or something like that, and they just haven't bothered. They may be pulling in updates from what they consider to be upstream, but they just haven't updated the version number.
Yeah, so there used to be consensus. I think, if I remember correctly, there used to be consensus compatible Zcash nodes that had Bitcore in the version string. But as you can see there, those have version numbers that mean they can't possibly be a current version of Zcashd or forked from one.
Is your hand up again or still up from last time?
No, sorry, I'm too used to Google, which puts it down for me.
Puts it down automatically, yeah. Just purely out of curiosity, what will ECC do when they upgrade to when we go to version 6 of Zcashd?
Well, that could be an incentive to fix this problem before then.
Or change the user agent. One option would be to change it to something that includes Zcash, because Zcash itself is trademarked, and it would be a mechanism then to discourage people from abusing it.
I remember that there are interoperability provisions in copyright and trademark law. So, for example, in Europe, you cannot prevent someone from using a protocol element that they need in order to be compatible, even if it's a trademark.
In this case, though, Pure clearly aren't compatible with Zcash, right?
That is true.
So that just simply doesn't apply. Yeah, I'm not saying it's it's just an idea. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it's one potential option to think about. Tior? Does it keep putting your hand up?
I'm sorry. I swear I put that down.
Okay. So so Nate, it sounds like maybe the next steps would be to arrange a call with ECC's infrastructure folks to talk about this more. Do we want to do that on an Arborist call, or do you think it should be a separate thing?
It could, I could go either way. I guess we should talk to, I should talk to them first, see what they're up for. One thing to note though is we are highly focused on addressing the mobile light wallet performance issues. So we're trying not to get distracted from that for a while. So maybe another month or so. I'm not sure how distracting this conversation would be, but I just want to be sensitive to their time. So I'll go ask them, and I'll get back to you all.
Cool. And at the risk of going off on a tangent, how is the work on the wallet performance issues going?
Yeah, that is, so we have been making good progress on that on the engineering front, but we haven't been good at communicating about it, and we've seen more and more people asking what's going on. So we're definitely going to start improving the communications about that. We plan to have a blog post imminently that describes all of the different efforts we're doing and sort of the timeline we have for those efforts coming out soon. So hopefully that will answer a lot of people's questions.
Cool. Do you think, should we add a slot in this call's agenda for updates on that stuff, or do you think that's superfluous?
No, I think that's a good idea. But let me again check with the people working on that. But I think it would be a good idea to just have regular updates on it because it's an urgent issue.
Yeah. Cool. Well, back to the original topic of network monitoring. Hopefully, Mark and Peter, this has given you guys a little bit of useful information, and maybe will help spark some ideas, and hopefully, we can get a meeting set up to discuss some of this in the not too distant future. But I think there's some interesting things to explore.
Do you have access to the R&D Discord?
Yes.
Okay, right. We can talk about it on that.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll probably plan on jumping back on another one of these calls and sort of updating you on what we've learned and what we've changed in our crawler and things like that. We definitely already have some ideas, so it's great. Yeah,
I think it'd be great. Yeah, as and when you guys are ready, maybe to do a demo sort of thing. That'd be great to do as well. Cool. Well, let me stop sharing this window and go back to the agenda. So open discussion. Any other topics that anybody wants to raise? Any other news? Who's going to Real World Crypto? I think we've got.
I think the people from ECC who are at Real World Crypto are not here. Strada's at Real World Crypto. Let's see. There's also Yingtong, who's ex ECC. Not sure who else.
I think we're gonna have Chelsea, Deirdre. I think Mark and Conrado. be there too. Oh, a bunch of people there. And some of the NCC audit team are going to be there as well. So that'll be cool.
Have fun in Japan. I'm quite jealous, actually. I've always wanted to go to Japan.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, any other business? If not, we can call this one 25 minutes early. I'd say thank you to everybody. Thank you to, especially to the Equilibrium guys for coming and joining us. And we will see you all again in 2 weeks' time during the earlier slot. So have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for hosting.
Wherever you are. No
Thanks.
problem.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.